Hello everyone, welcome back to VGS ASTRO. To those who are new here, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about strengthening the quadrants and trines, also known as Kendras and Konas in astrology through Vastu remedies. So please don't skip any part of this video because it's not just about the remedies that I'm going to be talking about here, but also giving you a clue on the underlying philosophy of the Kendras and Trikonas, which will help you come up with your own remedies for the challenges that you're facing in life. So before we get into the remedies, let's look at the basics of Kendras and Trikonas and also try and understand why these houses are important for us. Kendras are the houses 1, 4, 7, and 10. The Trikonas are the houses 1, 5, and 9. While the Kendras are the houses of action, or more specifically direction, the Konas are the houses of rewards. So the Kendras are all about giving us the direction, which everyone needs. Everyone needs a place to start and how to go about. And if that path becomes easy, then succeeding in that area of life becomes a lot more easier. Think of the production of a movie. You have different kinds of actors, the technicians, the sound department, we have art directors, but all of them need a unifying force to bring them together and help them move in a specific direction in unison, and that's the job of a director. So Kendras are all about guiding us in the path that we must take to be successful in life, and all the houses in the Kendra deal with very important life altering situations. The more we are aware about the path that we must take in life, the easier our life becomes. So that's the reason why we also have directional strength of planets associated with 1, 4, 7, and 10 houses. Jupiter and Mercury gets directional strength in the first house. Venus and Moon gets directional strength in the fourth house. Saturn gets directional strength in the seventh. Sun and Mars get directional strength in the 10th house. Rahu gets directional in the 7th, whereas Ketu gets directional strength in the 10th house. Now, it does make one wonder, why is it that the planets in our horoscope are not strong enough to guide us despite some of them having directional strength? In fact, it's enough to move in the right direction if you have benefic planets in the quadrants, and directional strength is only an added benefit and sometimes even better. So why is it that some people have it bad despite planets having directional strength are found in their Kendras? The answer is that it's important to see how strong these planets are based on the sign that it occupies, the degrees, the strength of the house, if it's exalted, whether it's retrograde, and also the strength of the Lord which is placed in that house to arrive at the success rate. So let's begin with an example. Let's say you're an Aries ascendant and you have Sun in the 10th house. So then Sun becomes the Lord of the 5th house, right? So look at the 5th Lord's strength in your chart. Now, Sun may have directional strength, but being in Capricorn naturally makes Sun a micromanager and more focused than he should be, making it very difficult for the native. Additionally, if the degree is 0 or 29 or 30, it kind of makes the planet too young or too old to give fruitful results. So you also need to consider conjunctions, aspects, and yogas apart from these specifics. Okay, so let's say if you have Saturn in the 7th and your Saturn is the Lord of the 5th and 6th for a Virgo ascendant, right? Look at the strength of the Lord of the 5th and 6th to know how strong your Saturn is. Quite possible that despite the directional strength, the planet is not in a very strong position to give you good results. Okay, now let's look at the Trikonas. According to Maharishi Parashara, the 5th and the 9th houses can bestow extraordinary wealth and reward. That's why the 5th is the Purva Punya Phala, past life good karma, and 9th is your dharma and luck, which is otherwise called the bhagya in life. While the Kendra positions are responsible for the directions you get in life, sort of like a guide, what is attained due to those efforts is the role of the Trikona. If the Kendras are strong, you will find the impetus and take the right direction and move in the right path to move towards a successful life. But ultimately, the rewards for the effort you put in, the actual success itself, is determined by the strength of the 1, 5, and ninth houses. And they're large, of course. So look at the strength of the house itself. I'll clue you in on how to look it up, so don't worry about that. But before that, let's also cover some of the theoretical underpinnings that are absolutely essential knowledge before we begin, okay? Now, Lagna, or the ascendant, is primarily a Kendra as well as a Trikona, so it makes it doubly auspicious. But what happens when the ascendant is also the lord of the 6th or 8th or 12th? In such circumstances, the lord of the ascendant becomes neutral in nature if he happens to be placed in the house that he owns. So what do I mean by this? For instance, for Scorpio ascendants, if Mars is in the 6th house, as it owns the Aries sign, it becomes neutral. Same case with Libra ascendants. If Venus being the lord of the 8th, if it is situated in the 8th house, then Venus becomes neutral and does not yield either good or bad results for that house. But what if Mars or Venus is situated elsewhere for Scorpio ascendants and Libra ascendants? How are the results going to be? The results would then depend on the strength of the house. So look at the strength of both the houses. So for Scorpio ascendants, if the 6th house is stronger than the 1st house, Mars will predominantly give the effect of the 6th house. If the 1st house is stronger, then Mars will dispense the effects of the 1st house. So you don't have to worry about calculating the strength of the house or the lord. Modern day software is able to do that for you. I use the JHora software, and here you can clearly see the strength of the house and the strength of the lord of that house. This information is good enough for us to know if the lord that occupies your Kendra or Trikona and the Kendra house or lord itself is strong or otherwise. Now, let's look at the link between these houses. When the lord of the Kendra is in a Trikona, that's when it gets really interesting, because you'll see that the rewards are doubling for these people. But this is not the case if a Kendra lord is in another Kendra house. That is, if your 4th, 7th, and 10th lord are placed in any of the Kendra houses 7, 4, or 10, the success that it can give you is limited. However, the exception is with regards to the ascendant, because the 1st house is also a Trikona. So therefore, Kendra lord in the ascendant always tends to give positive results. But the fact remains that a Kendra lord in a Kendra house is less powerful in giving success. Let me repeat this. For instance, 7th lord in the 4th or 10th would give limited success. Let's look at some other aspects of strength as well. When the lord of a Kendra is in its own house or in its own Rashi, the results are auspicious, as this gives rise to Panch Mahapurush Yoga. However, the yogas are a lot more effective if the planets also possess directional strength in that house. For instance, Jupiter or Mercury in ascendant, or Mars or Sun in the 10th would give it directional strength, right? I guess we now have enough information to know that Kendras and Konas are extremely important for driving you towards success and ultimately attaining that success. Now, malefics make it difficult, but benefics makes it easier when they're placed in the Kendras or the Konas. When you have malefics in Kendras, which is the 1, 4, 7, and 10th, like Saturn, Rahu, Ketu, or even Mars for that matter, even if it's in the 10th house, even though it's getting directional strength, it still makes one's life miserable. More the number of Kendras being affected by a malefic, more the negative effects. So what do I mean by being miserable? One becomes unhappy, maybe irritated and cruel-minded, and may even show signs of jealousy because he's somewhat dependent on other people, not able to rise in career like some others. Malefics in the fourth house would mean you're dependent on someone else at home or in your domestic life for shelter, or it could mean that you would be dependent on someone before you bring changes to your home life. For example, if you wanted to buy a piece of furniture home, you would probably have to seek the permission of somebody to get it inside, like your spouse or your parents, which means you're not the sole decision maker, and that kind of makes it somewhat of a big deal for people who have malefics in the fourth. Malefics in the fourth may also deny you property or conveyances, unless the planet is a Yoga Karka or exalted, or it's Pushkar Baba, or having a benefic aspect on this planet. Same goes when malefics are in the 10th house. You are providing inputs to your boss, but not the sole decision maker. Even if you have Mars or Rahu, you could be running things the way you want to, but there's always a nagging sense of being watched, or you feel that you would have to convince someone ultimately for the decisions that you intend to take. Some people are okay with it, but for those afflicted because of a malefic planet in the 10th, they are bound to get annoyed by the fact that they're ultimately dependent, and that could make them very unhappy. Malefics in the 7th house ruins one's married life. That's reason enough for someone to be unhappy throughout their life. Malefics occupy Lagna or aspecting it, good enough reasons for someone to be depressed or lead a poor life and pitiful life. Same goes for the trines, that is the 1, 5, and 9th houses. Malefic planet in the 5th is bad for prosperity, for children. And the malefic in the 9th is bad for luck. You would also want to check if there's a benefic aspect on these houses, which would drastically reduce the malefic influence. So in the event that you don't have benefics in your Kendras or your Konas, or not even receiving aspects of a benefic planet, then what do we do? So I'm going to suggest you some Vastu remedies if you have your Kendras or trines affected by malefics. So what is Vastu? Vasati iti Vastu, which means the place in which you reside is called Vastu. So when we talk about Vastu, we obviously know that we are going to look at the direction. So what's the connection between astrology and Vastu? Well, astrology is referred to as a Vedanga, which is a limb of the Veda. Vastu, also called Stapatya Veda, is said to be an Upaveda. And both these sciences are different branches of the same tree. So think of it this way. When there's an indication of a storm or huge rainfall, that is an indication of a bad phase in your life based on your horoscope, then Vastu remedies are like a shelter from that storm. And so to this effect, let's try and first understand the directions in Vastu. The 4 cardinal directions are north, south, east, and west. The 4 angular directions are northeast, southeast, southwest, and northwest. So every direction is linked to a planet in astrology, and each of these directions are also lorded by these Vedic gods, Each direction has a color or element associated with it, which is friendly with certain other colors and elements and inimical to certain colors and elements. So that's the first Vastu remedy we are going to look at to strengthen your Kendras. So let's begin with colors. You could use colors that go with the direction and make it more conducive and therefore favorable for you in opening up those energies which ultimately strengthen your Kendras. So what's the color that goes with these directions? For the north direction, you could use blue as your first preference, white as a second preference, and green as the third preference. Any of these colors will do, but painting with red or yellow is sure to block those energies, and you could either lose the opportunities that come your way or never be able to capitalize your opportunities. For the east direction, you could use green as a first preference, red as a second preference, and blue as your third preference. Painting with yellow color in the east direction would sure enough ruin this direction for you. For the west direction, you could paint it with white, which is the most preferred color for west, or you could use yellow as it is the second most preferred color and blue as a third preference. Using red or green would give you bad results in the west direction. In the south direction, the colors are yellow, red, and white in that order of preference. Using blue or green colors would give you problems in the south direction. Remember, getting these colors right would also mean that you not only strengthen the Kendras, but also you end up activating many of the zodiac signs. East would strengthen Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius signs. North would strengthen Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces signs. West would strengthen Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini signs. While the south direction would strengthen Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo signs. If you're not quite sure about changing different colors, or if it's not allowing much light to come into your house, then you could also go for white, which is a neutral color. Although it's not going to tip the scale in your favor, it means that you're not going to be at a disadvantage. So in a way, it's only going to make your horoscope more balanced. Now, for strengthening your Konas, for northeast, use green or blue. For southeast, use red or green. For southwest, use yellow or white. And for northwest, use white or blue colors. So this technique is not only going to strengthen your chart, but also everyone's chart at home. So if there are like 5 people at home, everyone's Kendra and Kona is now going to see a big boost. But what do you do if you don't own the house or you're living in a rented accommodation? So there's less chance of changing the colors, right? What do we do in that situation? Remember, I spoke about the deities that rule over specific directions at home. Let's bring that up here. Yeah, here they are. Now, appeasing or praying to these gods can also act as a remedy to strengthen your Kendras or Konas in your horoscope. By worshipping these deities, you not only strengthen your home, but also increase your chances of success wherever you're conducting your affairs from. It could be your office, or you could be even a digital nomad moving from one place to another. You're bound to see a positive influence because these deities or their positive influence will now travel alongside you. So that would be the best remedy for strengthening your Kendras and your Konas. The reason I'm not delving deep into Vastu here is because there are various opinions on Vastu remedies itself, and I haven't personally experimented with all those remedies. However, the ones that I've mentioned here are based on the basics of Vastu that I think every author on Vastu would agree on. And the other reason why I put up this video is to also show you that despite having a planet which has directional strength in your Kendra, probably the reason that you're not performing well is because it's not strong enough. And also to show you that malefics and Kendras are giving you these feelings of emotional upheaval and cause for grief and delay and also an upset mind. So do try out these remedies, and if you're worshipping these deities, the Vedic gods, try to be regular in the worship, because if you do it for a day or two, it's not going to show you magical results, right? So you're gonna have to be regular in your prayers, and that's when it's all going to fructify. And I hope this works for you. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and also share this with your friends and family, and please subscribe to my channel if you're new here. I'll see you guys again with another new video very soon.